Most people lose everything trading meme coins, but one trader, and a good friend of mine named Ko, cracked the code and made over $3 million on his public wallet. In this video, we're speaking directly to Ko, who's breaking down his story, exactly how he did it, his biggest wins and mistakes, and the mindset shifts that transformed him from losing trades to securing life-changing profits. So if you're tired of losing money or feeling like you're always late to the next big meme coin, stay till the end because this knowledge is worth millions. Guys, today we got an absolute killer in the meme coin space. We got Ko right here. This man has made millions off meme coins. We got his public wallet right here. We got a 7.48 million PNL on Trump. We got a 1.72 million PNL on Baron, 1.2 million realized PNL on Melania. This guy's been just banging on his public wallet alone. And if you're in Fortune Collective, I mean, you've seen some of his wildest calls. If you're wondering how the best of the best are pulling these numbers, Ko's about to break it all down for us and tell us about his journey.
Yeah, my journey. I started shitcoins, I would say around 2023. Before even just being a Fortune, I was just, like an average trader going through many various paid groups and just kind of trying to find my way into the space and making connections. And I found shitcoins through, a couple friends and in some paid servers, and I happened to stumble upon Pepe. Pepe, as you know, is one of the biggest meme coins right now. Even with the market kind of down right now, it's still sitting around 3 billion. And I caught Pepe at around 1 million market cap, and at the time I didn't really have much money to my name, pretty much at zero. But yeah, I mean, that was to this day, still one of my biggest trades. It's Pepe.
How much did you make off of it?
Pepe, at the time, I probably made like around like mid 6 figs, but like considering I was like pretty much broke at the time, I mean, that's like a generational trade for me.
So that's how you got like started and everything.
Yeah, that's how I really got started because I did NFTs for a little bit, but it obviously went to shit and I took a break from crypto.
So like before Fortune Collective or like way back then when you started, what was like your trading style like?
My trading style, I mean, it's just pretty much just finding like what I understand and kind of what people are really talking about, like on social media and trends. I mean, there's really like not a lot to, just trading in general. It's just kind of more of like I like to use gut feeling a lot of times. I know it sounds kind of cliche and it kind of sounds like but gut feeling is pretty important. And also just understanding like memes, whatever makes you laugh, whatever you can relate to. I think that's kind of like one of the best strategies going into shitcoins.
You were already a pretty good trader before. What was like the biggest challenge that was frustrating you? Like what were you trying that wasn't working out?
I think the biggest challenge for me is just actually just being consistent at a time because like when you hit your first big trade, I mean, it's kind of like it becomes a little easier to make money, but at the same time, it's kind of hard keeping your money. You probably will run into just taking bad trades because you're being overconfident. And I felt like after hitting my first big trade, kind of ran my port back down like a couple times at least, just by being a little overconfident and not sizing correctly, like putting too much into certain coins, thinking, hey, I can maybe hit another big one. But that's not always the case in shitcoins. It's a very psychological type of industry that we work in.
Yeah, dude. So you're one of the top traders in Fortune now. You're hitting some of the craziest calls I've seen. I mean, you're obviously a great trader, but what was like the biggest challenge that was frustrating you before? Like what were you trying that wasn't really working out? What was your biggest fumbles, stuff like that?
I think the biggest challenge is, I mean, obviously, like the market is pretty up and down. Like it's not always a constant type of flow. Like it's, market or majors, you can say, like Solana, Bitcoin is always volatile in times. So it's just kind of adapting to the market conditions. I think that was one of the biggest challenges that I still kind of face to this day. Knowing when to trade on and off, and there's some times where I just don't execute particularly well. But also going into the fumbles question, in shitcoins, you can't really predict things. Sometimes you think a coin's top, or like there's no way a coin would go to X billion market cap. And I had a numerous amount of fumbles, and like that included like this one coin called Peanut, right? Peanut is it's a squirrel that was actually endorsed, not really endorsed, but it was shilled by Elon Musk himself. And at first, I thought it was kind of like a stupid meme. I didn't think it was funny. Like, there's no way, there's going to be listings on it or anything. And then one day, a big exchange called Binance listed the coin, and it shot up to 2 billion. And that's actually one of the biggest trades that I fumbled. And I think I fumbled around probably close to $20 million on it. And, I don't feel good saying that, but yeah. I mean, that's just the reality of the game. Another coin that I probably didn't execute properly was Nub. I think this is a different kind of like fumble because, I was actually a pretty big believer in Nub at the time. I started like Solana shitcoins like literally a month before Nub dropped, so I was kind of getting familiar with the game. And to be honest, I only started with like 10 Sol on Solana, and me catching Nub, I think sub 1 million market cap. I was a pretty big bag holder on that. So I saw it shot up to like 180M, I think, around there. And me being like a moon boy, as what some people say, or a diamond hand, I round tripped that back pretty fucking hard. And I didn't make much profit on it at the end of the day, which I kind of regret still to this day. I could have extracted a good amount, but like I said earlier, it's part of the game. You can't execute every trade properly. You can't time tops.
Ko got into Nub early. He saw the potential of the coin before it took off, but because he was new to Solana meme coins at the time, he wasn't fully confident in how to build conviction and hold through volatility. He had the right instincts, but without the proper framework, he sold for a loss before it went to $160 million. He had the right instincts, but without the proper framework, he ended up selling for a loss before Nub ran to 160 million market cap. After working with me, he refined his approach to reading narratives, placing price targets, and scaling conviction in high upside plays. That shift led to the insane wins on Trump, Melania, Barron, where he not only entered early, but he held with confidence, transforming from a trader who second-guessed exits to one consistently spotting and executing cooks.
Nor can you time exits.
Yeah, dude, that's rough, bro. I probably could have played Nub a little better myself, too. I remember back holding that a little too hard. I know it had like one crazy run up, and then everybody thought like, oh, it was like this huge artist, and everyone thought like, oh, this is like the community coin. And it just like consolidated for like forever and just didn't move. But let's talk about your wins now, man. I mean, you've been with Fortune for a minute now, and you've hit some insane fucking plays, man. I mean, we got 7.48 mil on Trump, 1.72 mil on Barron, 1.24 million on Melania. What made you go heavy on these before they blew up?
Yeah, so I remember sitting at my desk on a random Friday night, and I had a lot of people just kind of hint at me, DMs and group chats, were saying, "Oh, Trump might drop a coin today." And at first, I was kind of like, "It's probably fake. It's probably a scam. It's probably some bullshit rug that somebody's just kind of pushing through." But anyway, as soon as it dropped, I think I saw Trump posting it on his Truth Social account, and then minutes later, he dropped it on his Twitter account. So I'm like, okay, the risk to that is that, okay, Trump rugs me on a coin. His socials are hacked or whatever. So I'm like, okay, the chances of that, in my opinion, at the time, I was like, it's pretty fucking low. I mean, like, why would this hacker, just somehow hack both of his accounts? I mean, it's the U.S. president. I mean, he's about to be president. It was almost a no-brainer at the time. And I've seen Donald Trump drop a coin. I feel like everybody's been waiting for that catalyst, especially if you're in shitcoins for, probably the last 6 months to a year. You would probably ape into a Trump shitcoin, right? Like, that's probably like the biggest narrative that you'll probably find. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna throw in size into it. I feel like, on a random Friday night where everybody's literally probably away from their desk, not trading at all, that's when you kind of catch the biggest trades. And Trump happened to be, a generational play, and I'm glad I caught it. Same with Melania too. Melania obviously wasn't the best for Trump, the Trump coin, but if you got in early, you would have cooked extremely hard. And knowing how much money that I made off Trump, I rotated some of that money to Melania, knowing that it'll probably play the same playbook. I mean, it's the first lady of the United States of America, so it has to do some decent numbers, in which I put a good amount of money in, and yeah, I made a couple million off that.
What about Barron, dude? I mean, bro, Barron was crazy difficult to catch. I remember it went like, wait, let me pull up the chart actually. It went like 100 mil or something at first, and then it went all the way back to zero, and then it ran all the way back to like 200 mil or some crazy shit. What made you go heavy into Barron?
Yeah, so a Barron coin was actually more of a gamble because I didn't necessarily think hey, Trump is gonna drop the coin for almost all of his family members. But hey, Barron is one of those coins where like it kind of felt weird. Like sometimes you kind of has to do with experience and just looking at charts and just kind of looking at like there's some distribution numbers and like who's holding it and whatever. And Baron happened to be a coin that I stumbled upon, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna throw some money into this. And I got a feeling, even if it's not legit, which most traders or at least new traders shouldn't risk money onto it, but Baron is one of those coins where like Trump, that during those like 2 weeks, it was like anything Trump related would have instantly mooned. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna throw money into it. I have some decent conviction, but not a lot of conviction into it because it's not legit. But kind of trusting your gut feeling and just hoping that people are just kind of bored and wanted to buy another Trump coin. I put a lot of money into that too, and I exited cleanly.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I think people sometimes forget that crypto's an attention game, you know? Like buying the speculation on things like these pay off, even if, let's say, Trump or Melania wasn't real. But what was your strategy for timing the exit? Because I know so many of my friends ended up round tripping Trump, and it's now at like 2 bill, just went straight down after that huge only up to like 15 billion or something.
So my strategy for timing to exit on a coin like Trump is always kind of like setting those kind of your own targets or whatever. It's hard to gauge, but you take Trump for example. First day it was already at like $10, $20 or whatever. Whenever you get a coin, it gets a really hard run up like that. I mean, it's safe to take a little bit of shave little profits off the board just so that you secure that profit because you never fucking know, right? Trump might not endorse the coin the next day or whatever. Another strategy I like to do is whenever coins are starting to get listed on exchanges, like let's take Binance for example, Robinhood, Coinbase, any of these exchanges, it's a good time to take profit too, because that's when a lot of people start entering the trade as well. And when that happens, it becomes overcrowded. So a lot of people enter a trade and expect to make a lot of money off that time. But when a lot of people start getting greedy, that's also another good mental target to like, hey, it's time to exit soon. It's harder to trade, based on like your P&L. Like a lot of people want to make, a million on this coin. They want to make 200,000. They want to make 10 million off a coin. But realistically, you're not going to get what you want sometimes. And it's better to be safe than sorry and take profits whenever stuff kind of feels like it has too much attention. And I felt like, I think my average exit on Trump was around, let's say 30 to 60 billion or $30 to $60. So yeah, I mean, when I saw those exchanges started flooding in, when I saw a lot of people saying Trump is going to $100, it's going to $200, I'm like, yeah, it's time to take a lot of profit and realize it rather than just have like that imaginary number in your phantom wallet.
I feel like a good indicator for that, my mom is asking me how to buy Trump coin, like shit like that. I feel like is a crazy top signal on these kind of things. Yeah, dude. I mean, we got the biggest wins right here, but I mean, like, let's be honest, nobody wins every trade. I fumble a lot of the time. Nobody's perfect. So, what's the worst trade you've taken, in your opinion?
Yeah, one of the worst trades that I probably ever took was probably a coin called Pudgy Penguins. I mean, me having kind of familiarity with like e-commerce too, and knowing or like at least hearing about Luca Nets, I was like, it's a pretty obvious trade for me at the time. A lot of people were being pretty bullish about it too. So, I chuck in a good amount of money. Well, not enough to like destroy my portfolio, but a good amount of money and an uncomfortable amount to the point where, I just kept dollar cost averaging every single dip. And it turned out to be one of the worst trades that I ever took because, I literally woke up like 6 a.m. just to buy the coin and it never went my way. I was pretty much down for like majority of the time and I had to cut my losses at a 60%. I had to cut on 60%. And unfortunately that happened. I've also had like a couple other decent L's too, like Nub for example. I mean, that's one of my biggest crash outs. I'm never proud of that too. I mean, but it is part of the game. I mean, you're gonna expect to lose on some trades. It's all about just keeping your head up at the end of the day. You can always make it back on a different trade. You also got to learn from your mistakes too, because if you keep making the same mistakes, you'll inevitably round trip your port to zero or just lose it all. I mean, you can't treat it like it's gambling too. That's one of my biggest kind of like lessons that I had to go through, through the hard way.
Yeah, of course, dude. I mean, one of my biggest fumbles is probably a FWOG. I remember thinking it was like a fake CTO or something. But yeah, dude, you're completely right about just, going next sometimes. So how do you keep that kind of killer mindset even after taking a loss or a fumble like that?
I mean, what they say, like life goes on. I mean, you can't dwell on these losses. You know your strengths, you know your capabilities, and you also know your weaknesses too. So as long as you stick to your strengths and know what you're capable of, I mean, it's easy to just bounce back and then just don't make the same mistake twice. And just knowing, what you can control, what kind of narratives that you feel like you can trade the best, and and then just keep going with it. I mean, there's no really real way to, avoid it, but there's a way to go against it too. And I feel like me just working on myself mentally, physically, and spiritually. It really helps me trade better. Just keeping a balance, not always having to look at charts and just knowing, through experience what you're good at and what not. But for sure, you'll bounce back definitely.
Yeah, dude, of course. Controlling my emotions is probably the biggest challenge I had when I first started trading. When you've got your money in a volatile market like meme coins and you just see it going up and down in literally seconds, it's pretty difficult to control yourself. You've been hitting some banger calls lately in Fortune. I mean, even with this drier market that we're in, you're still catching these crazy plays. I mean, we got a 33x on called big balls here at 1.9 mil, and then ended up going, I think 70 mil at the top, right? Yeah, ATH 68.2 mil right here. What's your process for finding coins like these?
All right, so for me, the process of finding good coins is, especially in dry markets, it's kind of like easier to filter out what's good and what's trash. Sometimes you get narratives like Elon Musk tweeting a lot about a particular topic or a particular narrative, and Big Balls, for example, is one of them where he kind of kept tweeting about the meme, even though the market was, not necessarily well at the time. After constant like rug pulls and constant money extractions, I found that Big Balls was like, regardless of what market condition, it was one of those coins that would perform well just because of how much attention it was getting. I mean, if you can just look at tweet interactions too, and how like the meme was just, it was a pretty funny meme. You could say. But Big Balls was one of those coins where like I knew it was gonna run up hard, but I didn't expect it to run as fast as it would have.
So, you've clearly leveled up as a trader, since your time in Fortune. What do you think is the biggest piece of value you've gained and why?
I think the biggest piece of value that I've gained from just being in Fortune is the networking. I mean, there's a lot of like-minded traders like me. There's a lot of people calling out the shots on good coins and good narratives. And just being in Fortune, I mean, rather than being a solo trader, you have a lot of people who have eyes everywhere, regardless of what chain it is, whether it's Solana, it's Ethereum, it's Base. It's always good to have a group of people who are willing to grind with you and people who are determined to find the next 100x.
Yeah, dude, networking is huge in this space. I feel like that's something a lot of people overlook. You should always be trading in a community, and if not, at least your friends, that's what I did at first. You're clearly one of the best traders on chain. I mean, we've got millions on this public wallet alone. Where do you see yourself in the next year from now? As a trader, your port, your overall life?
So I see myself next year. I mean, I don't really like to think long term, but always just improving myself, always just being at the top of my game, just elevating and just becoming the best version of myself, whether it's a trader in real life, always just improving my skills and making sure I meet the financial goals that I want. I mean, there's not really much to it. I mean, I'm gonna keep being here. I'm gonna keep showing up every single day and grind, regardless of what market conditions it is, until it's bled dry.
Yeah, of course, wag me, dude. I feel the same exact way about this. So on to the final question. Any final thoughts you'd like to tell the viewers? I mean, I feel like they've got a pretty good idea of who you are now, what your trading style is like. So just give us something to leave off on.
Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It might be tomorrow, it might be next week, and it might even take a year or two. But never give up on yourself. Eventually you might bump into, a life-changing trade. I want everyone to keep grinding regardless if they're, losing or even making money, but just make sure to set yourself a mental barrier and making sure that, you're doing well physically and mentally. Because this is a kind of a game of health too. You want to be at your best self when it comes to trading. And if you really want to hit those type of trades, you got to be like a big dog. You got to be like Andrew Tate.
All right, man. Last question. If in 2025, right now, you had to give yourself advice 2 years ago, if we had to go back 2 years from when the Solana meme coin bull market started, a single piece of advice from trading, what would it be?
I mean, just stick to the plan. I mean, if you know something is gonna explode, I mean, trust the gut. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you're wrong, then you're wrong. That's on you. But if you're right, you're gonna make an insane amount of money and just keep going.
Fire, bro. Appreciate you for coming through, breaking down some real game. If y'all want to keep up with KO, where's the best place to find you?
Hell yeah, man. I mean, I'm not a big social media guy, but I'm on Twitter. The Twitter ad should be down below. It's at Comethazine. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Now you've got Ko's insights on how to conquer the market and hit these monster trades. But insight alone isn't enough. And if you want to work personally with other traders like me and Ko, click the top link in the description below. And if you want to see a live breakdown of my $200,000 trade, check out this next video where I explain exactly how I executed it. Thanks for watching and peace.